Well, a very good evening, one and all, and welcome along to the Studio Rats Q&A Live number 216. Hang on, I better do it. Hang on, ready? You ready?
Yep. Oh, look at that. Fantastic. Oh, well, almost fantastic.
My name's James Ivey.
My name's Lee Abraham.
And you're not Paul Drew.
I certainly am not unless Paul Drew has been on the Guinness and the pork pies.
Paul sends his apologies. He had a wisdom tooth taken out. I mean, quite why he thought to remove wisdom from, guitar players and all that, notorious. But he looked a bit poorly. I mean, for just first week of September, he had a hoodie on and everything, and was sucking on soup and asking for a straw and all that sort of stuff. So yes, we I hope he feels better soon. He's got a very busy weekend of. It's funny you mentioned Guinness, actually, Lee, because he's off to Ireland.
Oh, is he? Oh, okay.
Yeah. But he has left us strict instructions with the keys and all that sort of stuff. So we will endeavour to charge through in his absence. But traditionally, this event starts with the words, Mr. ... Abraham, what have you been up to this week, sir?
I've finished my album.
Yay! And apparently, and it's been in the press. We know it's finished because the press have got word.
They have, yeah. So I spoke to my good chums at Prog Magazine, and they did me a nice little spread a couple of days ago, all over their website, and I guess it will be in the news section of the next printed magazine as well. So the album's finished. I sent off the finished mixes off to be mastered. Just sent the last few today, and it's being mastered on Friday. It's a weird thing, actually, because when it comes to mastering them, the last couple of albums I've done, I've actually mastered myself, but that was only out of necessity, because not last album, but the album before was right in the middle of lockdown. Of course, you couldn't go anywhere. So, but previous to that, I've always gone to studios to go and to master it, and I've always used Carl Groom, who some people might be familiar with, guitarist with Threshold. He's a record producer in the sort of progressive and metal sort of genre.
We can talk about prog all night tonight, mate, and we're not going to get told to give it a rest or play less notes or anything like that. It's fantastic.
Paul will be in bed with a bowl of chicken soup with a bag of ice on his head.
What are they doing to the show?
But this time Carl has actually kind of like he used to have a recording studio up in Surrey. He was in Virginia Water, not far from Thorpe Park.
Oh, Virginia Water. Oh.
Yes. And so anyway, but the people whose house the studio was in decided to kind of like move to a different part of the country. They've moved to sort of almost the Welsh border, really, Hereford sort of way.
Right.
And so his studio had to sort of close, really. But most of his work these days tends to be mixing and mastering anyway, which you can kind of do from home. And everybody did that from home come the lockdown anyway.
Yes.
I can't actually go to his house because obviously he's got 3 kids and a wife and everything running around. He doesn't have clients at home. But apparently he can set up a live link through to my studio monitors through a company called Audio Movers, I think they're called.
Audio Movers, it's awesome. It's very, very cool.
So we're going to link up via that, so I can hear in real time what he's doing to my precious mixes.
It's called Listen To, and it's very cool.
Oh, okay, yeah. So we're doing that on Friday. And the album's out on the 21st of October. Artwork is all done. Been signed off by the record company. Contracts are all signed, and we're doing it.
Fantastic. Yeah, Audio Movers. Listen To is how Paul and I work remotely.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing drums on a Studio Rats track, I will send him a link, and then we'll chat via Skype or Zoom or whatever.
Yeah.
And then when it's time to play, I just mute this end, as in the voice end, and then he hears exactly what I'm playing. So it's very, very cool and very good. And the quality is excellent.
Is there a cost involved then? Will he have to pay for that?
You pay a subscription.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They used to do it by monthly or weekly or daily, but I think it's yearly now because they realised that their business model was suffering, I suspect.
Oh, okay. Right. Interesting.
It's very good.
Good. So, what have you been up to, Mr. Ivy?
Busy week. So I've got this huge project for Jay-Z microphones is ongoing. I had a friend of mine over yesterday, a fantastic bass player, Ben Hearn, who we've worked with.
Oh yeah, I saw the pictures. Yeah.
Ben has just done a sterling job. He said, "What do you want?" I said, "Well, don't know. Bring some stuff." And he brought this amazing 5-string fretless over, and it was just. As soon as he started to play it, I went, "That's it. That's the sound." That.
Nice.
So I said, "Channel your inner Pino Palladino."
Yeah.
And make it sound like "Get Here," the Alicia Adams track.
Oh, okay.
Alicia Adams.
Yeah,
Alicia Adams.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. It's starting to come together really nicely. I've got the keyboard player coming over, or the piano player, stroke keyboard player coming over on Friday to help me out on that one.
So what's the project?
It's I can't say yet.
It's a corporate thing, is it? It's like a business thing. Yeah.
It's a corporate thing. It's a series of videos that we're putting out very soon.
Nice.
And it will be one a day for 14 days. So it's 14 videos.
Excellent. Well, he looked prepared anyway, because I saw the picture of him with a notepad on his knee.
Yeah. So the song's written. The drums are down and sounding really good. I'm really happy with how the drums sound. Bass now sounds great. Guitars are the next big thing, but I know what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. It's just a case of actually doing it. Because as everyone, it's hard enough to make an album, or it's hard enough to record a song. It's really hard to record a song recording a song.
Yeah.
When you have to video the process as well, and it's like you're adding the making of. You're adding a whole nother level, and then adding a tutorial element to that as well.
Oh God, yeah.
But hey, this is what we do. So that's going on, and then I got my band over tomorrow to do a recording for our new demo material to try and get some gigs, basically. So it will be busy.
So should we, because Paul's not here, should we make up a load of stuff that Paul's been up to? So Paul's had his tooth out. He's walked the dog a couple of times.
He's bought a new amp.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Right. So he's probably bought a guitar as well. He's probably had a load of pedals sent to him that he hasn't done videos for yet.
Yeah.
He might have washed the car. That's
No. No, he would have taken it somewhere.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I suspect Paul owns a hose, but only so he can wander around the garden with the spray thing on and go.
Yeah, just to see what the neighbours are up to.
Yes. Should we get into some questions and comments and stuff? There's lots to get through tonight because we've had 2 days of the most recent Gardner Hallgate auctions.
Okay.
And I can't entirely say I haven't been a bit naughty.
Oh dear. Right.
But I'm quite excited in a weird sort of way. You'll understand. You will understand.
Oh, it's not the Rory Gallagher stuff, is it?
Oh God, no. I'm not.
Someone sent me that link a few days ago. Yeah.
No. What's been interesting though, and we'll circle back to this in a bit. Prices are low at the minute.
Oh, really?
And some of the stuff that clearly had a reserve has not been hit. Let's get in. Shall I drive and you read?
Yeah, I can do. Yeah.
Here we go. Boom.
Thomas Ross. Good afternoon, all. Good afternoon, Thomas.
We're off and running.
Jeff Cook. Good morning from sunny Brisbane. The summer at the end of winter has been replaced by a bit of winter at the beginning of spring. But it should heat up again in a few days. I hope everyone's well. So, Jeff, you've got Iron Maiden over there at the moment. They're touring Australia. I've seen some YouTube footage of them. They gigged in Perth the other night. So, yeah, if you're going, let us know what it's like.
Love me some Maiden.
Oh, God, yeah. First band I ever got into.
I think I've probably seen them 3 or 4 times.
You beat me. I've only seen them once.
Big arena tours. So there's a pub not a million miles from where my parents live. And my mum it becomes like kind of the urban myth. You know, if you see tonight for one night only, the Nodding Donkeys.
Yeah,
It's basically Iron Maiden going out doing a pre-tour gig.
exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not far from where my mum lives, which is
Right, okay. I think I know the pub then. Is it? It's not the Horns in Watford, is it?
No, it's in Norfolk. It's right on the Norfolk Southern border.
Yes, you're right. Yes.
I can't for the life of me remember the name of the pub though. It's probably good for them.
Yeah, nobody knows them in Norfolk. Is that the point?
No, it's all. I've only made it once, and it is absolutely rammed. But it's also don't even consider getting a camera phone out because it'll be thrown at the wall and trashed and destroyed. Yeah. Yes, they're very self-policing, Maiden fans.
Al Lindsay, Guitar Safari, evening gents and rap fans, evening Al.
Al and I were talking earlier about plans for Winter NAMM, which could be quite exciting.
Oh, okay.
Could be good.
In January, yeah?
Yes, yeah.
Ben Allmark, good evening, gents. Hope the two of you are well. Cheers, everybody. Cheers, Ben.
All is good
well,
here,
not Paul's not well, but the rest of us are, I think, yeah. Gary Westcott, hello from Manchester, UK. We'll try not to ask too many silly questions. There's no silly questions.
Only silly answers.
Only silly answers. David Brooks.
Hang on. That's the best one yet.
Yeah, brilliant. Look at that. Oh, I love your guitar collection, David. It looks just like Paul's. Hello, mates. Congrats, Lee. Where do we buy? Oh, that's very kind of you, David. If you go to, it's an easy website to remember. It's progrock.co.uk. That's the retail arm of the label that I'm on. You can order it there.
Awesome.
Dave McQuillan, evening, fellow rodents. Hope life's treating you well. Hello, David.
At this point, I'd normally do this with some pics, but I've actually tidied up because we're videoing tomorrow. I've tidied up to the point where I've tried to get everything off the desk and make it look like a studio rather than like the normal shithole where I live.
The normal chaos. Yeah.
Yes.
Farad H, evening all, evening Farad. Pierre Stjoholm. Pierre.
Yeah,
anyway,
Pierre. That, yeah.
Hi, great tube channel. I wonder, with a plugin like Amplitude, I think you mean, what input level is best when you have recording to get the right feel? Second question is, what instrument cables is best for signal? James, over to you.
Right, so Paul will tell you that we get a question like this or something similar on the hour, every waking day of the year. The input level thing, if you're using, depending on what, it all depends on what audio interface you're using, what front end you're using for your Amplitude platform. Both of us would say the same thing. Get a good 0 dB on the meter, not too yellow, definitely not red, but well above the green. And then if it sounds good, it is good. End of. There's half of me really wants to dig into this and get scientific about it because various people have approached me with, you know, the scientific answer to all this stuff. And the other half of me goes, oh, for God's sake, just use the gain on the interface until it sounds good. So I'm still not quite sure where I'm at on this. I'm a little bit on the fence. But certainly if you're going into something like Tonex or you know, the Amplitude or anything like that, just use the gain on your interface to set the input level, get a good strong level, and you're probably 99% of the way there. Cable wise, I make all my own because it's a lot cheaper. I use Neutrik connectors and I use Klotz cable.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would say just about the level thing, all I tend to do is I just tend to, if I'm recording direct to my interface, I would just dig in really hard on the strings and make sure that when I dig in really hard on the strings, that's just literally tickling between green and yellow.
Yeah.
Leave it at that.
I think because I come from quite an old school tape background, you know, originally I've recorded the tape. I'm used to recording quite hot. I know you don't have to these days.
No, not if you're recording 24-bit. No.
Well, or 32-bit float in Pro Tools case, or Nuendo, whatever your DAW of choices. But I still tend to record quite hot. And the reason for that is because I like the sound of preamps driving hotter.
Yeah. And
that's just a thing. That's not a... That is an actual thing. On an API, for example, if you want to drive the preamp hot, you have to drive the input through into your DAW hot. On the warm audio API clones, you have an input gain and an output level. So you actually can drive the preamp hot, but you can bring the level down, which is handy. But that's not the way it is with the genuine APIs, which is slightly annoying. But you know,
but if you're recording, like if you were using Tonex software or Amplitude software, you'd be recording a dry DI'd guitar signal into.
Absolutely, yeah.
You wouldn't even with a preamp, you wouldn't want that to distort.
Oh God, no. You want to use, and again, I would probably tend to use quite a neutral sounding preamp. I wouldn't be using my Neves for that because you don't have a Neve front end to a guitar amp. I'd probably use an API or an Audient pre because they're not very coloured.
Yeah.
I
know
that's
as clean as possible. Yeah.
Clean and uncoloured as possible. Right. Boom. Here we go.
Mendel rocks. Evening all, and congrats, Lee. Thank you very much, Mendel. Thank you. Jeff Cook. Vox AC30 is a confusing term because it seems to cover every incarnation of a 30-watt Vox amp. Which is the best one or the classic one? I've heard that it's a top boost with a 212 Alnico Blue. Yeah, I mean, I'm no expert on Vox amps, but yeah, I mean, that's the one that I've heard about is the top boost with the Alnico Blue speakers. Yeah.
The top boost refers to a particular edition of the AC30, as far as I know. The AC30 I've got, the 50th anniversary, isn't a top boost. But my God, that thing sounds good. You know, I mean, it sounds ludicrously good.
I bet it's
well, it's only at the head as well. It's the 30-watt head, but it still weighs a boatload.
Yeah.
But an AC30 2x12 is a beast.
Might as well have a forklift truck to get it in and out of the gig.
Well, I mean, I think an AC30 is the only combo that's actually heavier than a Fender Twin.
Yeah. Monstrously heavy.
Yeah, but I don't think there is a ultimate AC30 as far as I know. Paul speaks very highly of that 50th anniversary I've got.
He did, yeah, he did.
It is one of the Chinese ones, but you know. But I've also said several times that Paul could play through a Sun Mustang 15 practice amp, and it would still sound glorious. So,
yeah,
and it's not very often I compliment him either.
It's only because he's not well.
Yeah.
Daniel Early, good evening, gents. Always a pleasure to see Lee. Thank you very much. It's a breezy 26C here in North Carolina. Nice break from the heat. Nice.
26. That's like middle of August here.
Yeah, we've even seen 26 this year.
Yeah.
Chris Williams, evening, guys. Evening, Chris. Al Lindsay Gisfori. Lee, have you ever heard of Lazuli, French prog band? I have, yes. They toured with us with Fish on the Misplaced Childhood tour. Oh, Fish's anniversary Misplaced, not the original Misplaced Childhood tour. That was about 40 years ago. Give them a listen. Such a great band. Yes, I have heard lots and lots about them, actually. Yeah. So, yeah. But no, I've never heard them. It's always... I don't know whether I should say this or not because it might piss a lot of people off. But when you become a musician, when you're a kid, you're a music fan and you listen to lots of music and you have a favorite band and you follow a favorite band or bands or whatever. When you become a musician, that music fan in you kind of goes away a little bit.
Dies.
Well, it doesn't die. It doesn't ever die, but it kind of you have less time to listen to music. Not that you have this inclination to listen to music, because you're always listening to what, but you listen to music in a different way. You listen to music from a sort of like, how did they do that? How did they get that sound? How did they play that? Or how did they record that? You analyze music in a different way when you become a musician, and it's kind of, it's a little bit sad in a way, because that inner kid, you know, is, like you say, is gone really. So
I listen to music in 3 ways, and again, a lot of it depends on.
Right.
I find it very hard to switch off my engineer production ears.
Yeah.
Really hard. I find it almost impossible to switch off my musician ears. But then 6 or 7 pints later, all I want to do is get up and enjoy it like everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah.
there's and it sounds weird, but it's really hard to switch off the.
It is, yeah, it is definitely.
When my wife and I got married, we were looking around for bands and stuff, and I said, well, this is going to go one of 3 ways. Either we're going to book a band that we both love and can't afford it, like Toto.
Right, yeah.
Because they've done weddings.
Have they?
But yeah, that they'll, you book Toto for your wedding, it's the most expensive element of your wedding, but they'll, any band will do a gig if you book them. Yeah, we book an average function band, and I'm going to spend the whole night going, or I play.
Yeah.
To which she agreed I could do a set.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I did 2 songs at my own wedding. Yeah.
But book Toto or Dream Theater or someone like that, and the rest of the night, there's Jen and I at the front giving it large, and everyone else is going, "What the hell?"
Yeah, could you imagine Auntie Flo's face?
Pull me under kicks off.
Yeah, exactly. All that music, that's just a noise.
But it's one of those you do. I'm always very aware at gigs where other musicians hang out, and you can spot them a mile off, because they're the grumpy ones at the back like this.
Yeah. And I'm guilty of it myself. I really am. Yeah, but I would say that Autotune has ruined me, because I can listen to music that was recorded back in the 70s and 80s that I've listened to all of my life. And since I've been a musician, using computers and Autotune and Melodyne and all that malarkey, I listen back to those records and I think, oh my God, how out of tune were those vocals? And I'd never noticed. But
I think
we're so, for want of a better word, we're so tuned in now to how Autotune and stuff sounds. We don't even notice it anymore.
I think what's interesting as well is there's a few songs that you listen to, and I say I've recorded covers of things like Candy Stanton's Young Hearts Run Free, and there's an alto sax solo in it, and the last phrase of the alto sax is out of tune. It's painful, and then you hear like a good player these days go to do it, and it's still out of tune. It's the instrument that's out of tune. It's the mechanics of the instrument. You go, okay, but I can fix that with Melodyne.
Yeah, exactly.
So while it's like, say, the nice thing about this session I'm doing tomorrow is we're all in the same room. There's no hiding the drums away, because my new room is one big space.
Yeah.
But if you're on a stage, a live gig on a stage works. A live recording of a live gig works perfectly well. So I'm going with that. The fact that the singer is going to be there and the drums will be there is the separation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I won't be able to auto-tune. I won't be able to mess around.
Oh, right. Okay.
Because that's what we get, in the room at the same time.
There'll be spill from the,
And I like that. I like the fact that it has to be right. Yeah. I would much rather, if a track is 80% of the way there, I'd rather do another take than go, we'll fix it later. I hate all that. I really do. I use Pro Tools like a tape machine. Always have.
Yeah.
Right. Let's keep on going.
Guitar Land TV. Hello, I have a question. Is Fractal Axe FX3 Turbo enough to record a professional album? Or do you think you need to buy traditional amplifiers? Just curious about your opinion. You could record a professional album on one of these if you wanted
on
to.
an 11 rack, on a Tonex, on a
Don't
Axe
give in to
FX3
the hype.
is a monstrous machine.
Yeah.
I hope you have your degree in rocket science. That's all I can say.
Yeah, they're quite difficult to operate, aren't they, and program? But no, you don't. You could record. You know, it depends if you're recording it yourself or you go into a studio with a good engineer. If you've got good if you're doing it yourself and you've got good experience, you could record with anything. I've made albums with the pod before, and nobody ever said in the reviews, "Oh my god, that guitar sound is terrible."
It's funny. I on the Toman tour video I put out on JTT this week, yesterday, in fact, the guitar part was recorded. The underscore music that had guitar in it, which was recorded on that 11 rack, and Paul actually said to me, "That guitar sounds good."
Yeah, exactly.
So there is no the snobbery factor goes away when you can't see it.
Exactly that.
I've recorded demos and album guitar tracks on what's the Behringer pod thing called? The Behringer.
Oh god, yeah. Is that the GD21 thing?
Something like that. Yeah. Look like a Les Paul a bit.
Yeah, that's right.
Les Paul body. I've recorded guitars from that.
Oh, is it called V-Amp? V-Amp or something?
V-Amp, that's the one. Yeah. And if you don't know, I actually think you stand more chance of getting a better sounding guitar part with an Axe FX than you do with traditional amplifiers. Because with amplifiers, you need to know about microphones. You need to have the microphones. You need to know where to put the microphones. You need to know about signal flow and gain structure and all that sort of stuff.
You need to have a nice space to do it in as well.
And a big enough space to crank the amps.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas no one's ever complained that my Axe FX has kept them awake.
Yeah, exactly.
So actually, maybe Axe FX3, if you're not as experienced as, we don't know. I mean, the fact that your Guitar Land TV suspect says,
if you've got an Axe FX already, go fine. You can record an album, but don't feel you have to go out and buy one. Go out and buy a Helix or a GT1000 or something, just as good.
Or an old 11 rack for 250 quid.
There you go. Gary Westcott, I have a Boss Katana 100 Gen 3. If I use a compression pedal, should I turn off the built-in compression in the amp, or will it not make a difference? It will make a difference. I would, too much compression into compression. No, you're just squeezing your signal too much. I would only compress once.
It's interesting because in a guitar chain, I would completely agree. In an audio signal path, I would rather compress lots of little amounts than one big amount. Like on a vocal chain, I would much rather have 2 or 3 compressors than one just going squash. But I think in guitar, the amount of dynamic control that's being done is very small. Generally, it's an effect for sustain often rather than dynamic control. So
on the way in, it is. Sometimes I use compression when I'm recording. I use compression after the amp sound. If I've done a solo and there's a couple of notes in the solo where I haven't quite landed properly and it's spiked a bit, I'll use a compressor just to keep that under control. But
totally agree.
Guitar Land TV, I play music in Creed Alter Bridge style. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Paul will be the first to agree with this when I say that when it comes to things like modelers and, whether it's the cheap ones like the HX Stomp or whether it's the expensive ones like the Chord Cortex, it's the high gain sounds that they're good at. Yeah. They've got the high gain sounds.
Super high gain, super clean. They're great at. It's the clean on the verge of breakup.
It's the stuff in the middle that they're not seeing. Slurp, slurp. It's the stuff. It's the stuff in the middle that they're not quite so good at, or there's a lot of debate about how good they are. Yeah.
It's funny because that's why I liked the 11 rack originally. Over 15 years ago now, because it did do a good job of the middle ground, clean on the verge of breakup, voxy style tones. Quad Cortex now does an amazing job of those. Axe Effects does an amazing job of those. The Line 6 pod, not so great. That middle ground stuff.
Yeah. Pierre, Apollo Twin. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Apollo Twin used the instrument input.
Yeah.
Usually get your gain control, bang in the middle, you'll be fine. You'll be well away.
Thanks.
Yeah.
No worries. Keith Milner, evening all. Evening, Keith. Oh, crikey. Is this we're going to get instructions now.
Down.
Bond. We have to go and snuff out Blofeld from wherever he is.
Careful with that.
Hi, what effects unit did Paul run the captured Tonex patches on the patch demo videos through? What effects unit did Paul run the captured through his Tonex pedal, I guess?
So what he would have done, Paul has, when he does his playback, whether it's an amp or a Tonex pedal or even his Quad Cortex or anything like that, maybe not the Quad Cortex because obviously the effects are in the box. But when Paul is using an amp, his effects are after the speaker emulation, and they are normally a Lexicon 240 delay and a plate reverb. Normally,
it's usually the effects. The effects unit is usually the it's built into his interface, isn't it? It's part of the UA.
He uses the UA effects. It's a Lexicon and a plate. That's what he uses. I'm pretty sure of that. It's certainly the Lexicon. I use a 480, and he likes the older one.
Right, but it's built into the interface. He's got which interface you got? It's the UA
Apollo X6.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. And he uses it from console, so it's baked in when he records. But all those effects are happening after the speaker emulation. Definitely. In a studio style effects routing rather than a guitar only effects routing.
Yeah. Jeff Cook, Iron Maiden, not quite my cup of tea. Mate. Last time I saw Bruce Dickenson was on YouTube singing Delilah on an old TV game show. Oh, well, okay. Well, we've all had our skint times, He did well, but it demonstrated what a great singer Tom Jones is. What are you saying? Bruce didn't make a very good hash of it.
A friend of mine went to see a medical professional and said, "Doctor, I keep walking around going, my," and he said, clearly you have Tom Jones syndrome. And he said, "Is it contagious?" Well, he said, "It's not unusual."
Not unusual. Yeah, very good. Yeah, excellent. Dad jokes are in force tonight. Again, I very much like the final sound of the patch demo vids and would like to replicate 100%. Well, there we are. Go out and buy the UA Apollo. It's not cheap.
Basically it's a 240 Lexicon and a good plate reverb. That's Paul's trick. And play like Paul Drew.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Have his guitars and play like him.
Yeah. Chop his fingers off, attach those. Was it, I can't remember the name of the magician, but the last gig before Bruce Dickinson left Iron Maiden for the second time.
Simon Drake, yeah.
Yes. And there was a bit where he chopped off Dave Murray's arms.
Yeah.
And it basically looked like he'd grabbed Dave Murray's arms and was playing the guitar. But obviously it was hands through. I don't know why I remember that quite as vividly as I do, but
ultimate cheese, really, isn't it?
Amazing. When Bruce Dickenson left Maiden for the first time.
Yeah. Is there going to be a second time, we ask ourselves?
Hopefully not. Nah. He's enjoying flying jumbo jets and
they're
like
there to retirement now, I think.
Yeah.
Sparks Northern. Do you guys have experience with the DSL 40CR? Change speaker or tubes? I had a DSL1 head for a little while. No, I never changed the tubes in it.
I had a DSL 100,
right,
which we blew up famously on a video.
Yes, I think I remember that. Yeah, I think you'll get more.
We popped a fuse, basically.
Yeah, I think you'll get more tonal changes out of a speaker change than you would out of a tube change.
Massively.
Yeah, you preamp tubes, you probably wouldn't hear any difference at all. Power amp tubes, I'm not sure that you could, because that would be a fixed bias power section. I would have thought would only accept the sort of tubes that left, the factory with. Speaker change, yeah, you could do that absolutely, as long as you match up the ohms properly, and that would give you the biggest difference, I would say. Depends what you're looking for. What are you currently unhappy with the DSL 40? Let us know.
I mean, I would say the biggest change you will get with a DSL, and the reason most people will be upset with a Marshall, is they're not driving it hard enough.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, the power section.
Get yourself a load box. Get yourself an aux box or a Captor X or some kind of load device that allows you to drive the living out of the power amp section.
Yeah.
Get it really cooking, but not destroy your hearing or upset your neighbors.
Yeah.
And I would say that's gonna give you the biggest difference in sound. And also, it's like an aux. You can then run it through a virtual cabinet and you can check out which speakers you like.
Yeah, absolutely. Al says, how I wished I had Autotune on that Farewell to China tour. I'll leave it there. Yeah. Mind you, Autotune live is, that's got to still be pretty difficult to get it to work properly, I should think.
There are bands that my favorite band of all time, who we won't diss in public, are quite open in the fact that they have a second keyboard player who is basically playing the vocal harmonies to keep everyone in pitch.
Oh, okay.
I got very upset about one of their live albums where everything was auto-tuned beyond the point where it was comfortable to listen to, or didn't enjoy that very much at all.
I always say about Autotune and Melodyne and all these sort of things, they don't make a bad singer sound good. They make a good singer sound great. Or rather, they make a good performance sound great.
Yes. Yeah. I've always said to singers when I'm in the studio, if you're a bit pitchy, let's not worry about that.
Yeah.
I would much rather you gave me great diction and great attitude and great, rather than went, oh my God, I was a bit flat, because I can tweak that easily.
Exactly.
I can't fix
delivery.
Yeah. Now, many years ago, I went to a workshop at SAE in Oxford, and drove up from London for this 2-hour session by Melodyne, and I learned more about Melodyne in that 2 hours than I have before or since. It was brilliant, properly learning about how you shouldn't pitch the attack of the note,
right?
Because that's where the weirdness comes from. There is no pitch to the attack. That's the percussive sounds. And I was like, oh my God, that's genius. I learned more about how to use Melodyne properly and subtly, rather than just go 100% automatic.
Yeah. Do you have a guitar speaker that you think works better to record with than others. I'm in search for one that will work good with a deluxe reverb and Tweed Tremolux. I don't use speakers personally, not live or recording. I use IRs, and I have got a favourite IR, and it's based on a 4x12 vintage 30. So I guess, yeah.
So frog.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. I'm nothing if not dependable.
So I've got a couple of 3 speaker cabinets now in the studio where I do put mics in front of speakers, and I do like to do that because I can and not upset anyone. The 2 speakers that are in the Fender Twin, which are not the original Jensens or JBLs, I think they're just random Celestians, sound amazing. They shouldn't. I think they're even GT75s, which is the most horrible Celestian speaker of all time. But the cab I've got that I use 99% of the time is it's either that 4x12 I picked up and cut the front off that Paul thinks I'm some kind of evil person for doing, or it's the Boss Wazza cab. Oh my God, that thing sounds good.
What speakers are in there?
Boss Wazza 12.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the thing that's amazing about it is normally on a 4x12, you have one that's your favorite because they all sound markedly different. In that, they don't. The consistency across all 4 cabinets is amazing. Of all 4 speakers in the cabinet is amazing. A, they're quite rare, and B, it's a 4-figure cabinet. When you think you can pick up a 4x12 at an auction for a couple £100, like I did.
Yeah. So it's £11.49, is it? Wow.
Yeah. Take away, move the decimal places 2 to the right, and you're probably quite close. Scary stuff. But yeah, I mean, you won't go far wrong with the vintage 30 because that's what rock and roll's been recorded on for the last million years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, any of the Celestian speakers are really good, aren't they?
Yeah.
Guitar speakers.
Yeah.
Jeff Rock. I always like the guitar tones that sounded pretty grim, isolated. Yeah. The intro to Rory Gallagher, Do You Read Me, is a perfect example. Most of Brian May's stuff, etc., but stick them in a track, awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of, before we got into this whole IR business, a lot of guitar recording was done through analog speaker sims, which was just kind of EQ curves and stuff like that, and people use them lots and lots. Some of the Stephen Wilson solo albums and some of the It Bites stuff has been recorded direct with analog speaker sims. Yeah, like you say, on their own they sound awful. Put them in a mix, fine.
I've got a lot of the kind of stem tracks and like stem collections from different things. For God's sake, don't listen to the Beatles isolated. It's painful. If you listen to the guitar parts in Saw Her Standing There, you would never listen to that track again.
Oh, really?
Because it's positively out of tune and awful.
Yeah.
But you put those 4 boys together.
Yeah. Shahaba, $199 for an Eventide H9 plug-in bundle. Worth it? I guess so, considering the pedal is £500 for the old one and £1,000 for the new one. But James has used the pedal, I haven't. So,
I mean, I've got the pedal and it's brilliant. Now ask me if I've used it since I did the review.
Well, not even as a paperweight. No comment.
Okay. It's brilliant.
Maybe not then, Shah.
I would say what's $199? What, £160 for a plug-in?
That's quite a lot.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, that is, and then there's no resale value on a plug-in.
I know you haven't got. I know everyone says, "Oh, the new H90 is effectively 2 H9s." It is more than that. But when you've got potentially an H999 because it's plug-in, you could end plug-in to plug-in to plug-in to plug-in. Go crazy with it. So yeah, go plug-in.
Egamert. Hey, folks, good evening. Love watching your channel. Greetings from Turkey.
Weren't you there last week?
Me?
Oh, sorry, that was Torquay. Sorry.
Swindon. Sweden. No, Swindon.
It's the old joke. Recently back from a tour of Turkey and Sweden. Sorry, Torquay and Swindon.
Swindon, yeah. Never mind. Jeff Rock. I remember that TV show. It was Patrick Keelty, Last Chance Lottery.
I'm going to nod and agree, mate.
Yeah. I'm a bit lost there. Nectarius. Evening, gents. That pedal show, Mick in particular, have lately been claiming that guitarists who use Guitarists that use modelers in function bands get lost in mixes in comparison with guys who use amps. Thoughts? Well, all I can say is, because I'm a guitarist that use modelers live, and all I'll say is, well, I'll say two things. Number one, they haven't dialed their modelers in correctly. Or number two, the sound man or whoever's in charge of the desk is not pushing them up loud enough.
I would agree 100%. Whenever Paul has done a fully modeler gig with me, it's always down to having a boost setting, a one pedal.
Yeah,
bring me forward.
Yeah,
and don't give the sound guy a chance.
Yeah, agree with that.
Yeah, or your sound guy, it's not your sound guy.
Yeah.
And the number of sound guys who I've seen at gigs doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not actually.
Yeah.
When I do sound for bands, you know, because of the way I tend to work, I wander around the venue with the iPad and I'm listening to how it sounds around the venue.
Yeah.
We're not talking the Albert Hall. We're talking not quite the Dog and Duck, but you know, we're not talking huge venues. But I would much rather walk around the venue and go, oh yeah, that sounds a bit weak here. That sounds strange. Work out what's going on. Than I am not the sound guy who sits there doing this for most of the gig.
Yeah. But the classic thing with not dialing in your modeler correctly is when you're at home, you'll always use too much gain
and too much bass,
too much treble and too much bass. And when you get to a gig and you turn that up loud, it will take your face off in a bad way. And so whether that automatically makes people turn you down in the mix, and it just gets lost because you haven't got mids there. So what you need to do, John Cordy talks about this quite a lot when he talks about dialing in his HX Stomp and various things that he goes out live with. You need to back off the gain and you need to make it a lot darker than you think.
Yeah.
And that should help you cut through the live mix at band volume. Band volume is such a different thing to playing at home. It really is.
If you have the chance when if you're using modelers and things live, book a rehearsal room.
Yeah.
So you can turn it up.
Yeah.
Because it will completely change the way you set up your amp sounds. Because you'll go, oh, that's how much gain I'm using at full tilt, you know.
Yeah. And you'll find that because most of the time, us guitar players, we use gain to get sustain, but you will get sustain naturally through the volume in the room, and you don't need as much gain to get the same amount of sustain. And when it comes to lopping off the top and the bottom so that your mids poke through a bit more, you'll find that most modelers have got a global EQ right on the end of the chain to enable you to do that, and it will just apply across every single patch. So you don't have to worry about, oh, well, this patch needs tweaking and this patch needs tweaking and this patch. No, just go straight to the global EQ, lop off the top and the bottom, maybe even push the mids up a bit. Hey, presto.
And all of a sudden, and say the only other thing I'd say to that is have a boost, and a one pedal instantly available boost on your modeler.
Yeah,
you can knock it up 4 dB.
Yeah.
So know that
mine's built into my solo sound, but yeah.
So you know that your solo is going to soar above. You're not relying on the Pratt at the back with the faders going, oh, I'll have another pint of, oh, is he playing a solo?
Yeah.
Right. You ready, Lee?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Willie!
Here again.
Anyway.
Anthony, Nectarus, not if the patches are designed right. And it's, well, there we are.
Right,
Exactly what we were saying.
Yeah.
We are justified in our opinion.
Here we go.
Mick is a bit of a knob, has to be said. He's got an interesting delivery, that guy, isn't he? He's always really kind of seriously deadpan.
I sat 2 seats away from him on the flight back from NAMM this year.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. I always think Dan is... Dan's the... If they're a comedy duo, Mick's the straight man and Dan's the gag man.
Well, it's the Antipodean thing going on, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely the... I'm not sure whether he's a fish and chips or a fashion chops, but he's definitely that part of the world.
Pet. Evening, Pet. Evening, both.
Yeah.
I've never used Autotune, but imagine in some contexts it's a matter of necessity. Yeah, well, yeah. I don't tend to use Autotune anymore because it's a bit sort of... Yeah.
You can hear
it.
Yeah.
Melodyne is much better. And Melodyne comes free with Pro Tools. So,
and there's not many times you see someone do that when they say the word Pro Tools.
I love my Pro Tools. Keith Milner, Boss Wazza 421. I've seen X Display one for $699.
I'd get that. I would pick that up in a heartbeat. That's an awesome deal.
Not that I'm in the market. Well, you could get it and keep it and maybe offload it later. Gary Simmons, thoughts on adding more bass tones models for Tonex?
It's funny you should say that, Gary, because we'll talk about some recent purchases at the latest round of auctions very shortly. But yeah.
You bought Trace Elliott, have you? Oh, no.
A really big one. Really big. Ben, my bass playing friend, was over yesterday, and we realised that I don't have a bass cab, and I wanted to. I like the sound of bass amps mic'd because you get air movement and you get all that stuff. And he brought over his 12-inch Mark bass cab, and it sounded great.
Yeah,
but I thought there's a couple of Trace Elliott stacks in. Let's talk about it now, just because it's relevant now. Let's talk about it now. Right. So I'm just going to reset this to be there, and we'll talk about my winnings, shall we?
Yeah.
Fancy a laugh?
Go on then.
I bought that.
Oh my God. I had one of those in the 90s.
Yep. I bought a 2x10 with the horn and a 1x15 and the 300 watt head.
Nice.
How much do you think that lot cost me?
Whew, blimey. I'm out of the game on bass amps these days, but I mean, all I can talk about is brand new prices. And I mean, back in the 90s, brand new, that would have been almost approaching $2,000.
Yes.
It would have been about easily $1,000 for the head and maybe
$400
or $500 for the bottom cab and $600 for the top cab, something like that.
Yeah. So I picked that up for 130 quid.
You really? That's a steal. That is.
I think the head alone is worth twice that.
Oh God, yeah, easily
on eBay or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. It all works. I take it.
It all works. I want the cabs. Bizarrely, yeah. I'm not too bothered about the 15, but actually,
yeah,
for in here, it kind of makes sense to have a bass rig.
Yeah. You can use it to put drinks on, if anything.
My dark glass sounds amazing, DI'd.
Yeah.
But it does. There is something about moving air and microphones and stuff. And I went, I must have that. And it's 130 quid. I'm very pleased with myself.
Yeah, that's a steal. That is. Oh, what's that? Soldano preamp. Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Paul and I chatted this morning about a few things that I shouldn't look at. in the auctions, and this was one of them. And he went, "You'll never get that. That will go for ridiculous money."
Yeah, that looks like original sort of 1980s stuff, is it?
Yeah, I mean it's a 2-channel Soldano preamp that. Yeah, it's an awesome thing. That was 380 quid.
That's not too bad. I've seen Marshall JMP1s go for more than that.
I think I sold my JMP one for more than that. The one I bought at an auction. So in answer to the previous question, to Gary's question, yes, there will be some properly made with cabinet.
Yeah.
Bass
Trace Elliott ones.
Trace Elliott bass Tonex models coming soon. I'm also going to Tonexify this as well because I think that's going to be amazing. Put that into something really juicy. It's going to sound cool.
Is it fairly high gain, that preamp?
I actually don't know. I don't know much about it, but you know, Soldano. It's going to sound great. And if it's not, put some pedals in front of it.
Yeah, indeed.
The other thing I picked up was this bad boy.
Right. Okay. Nice.
Now, this apparently is the prototype, as in the pre-production prototype, with a couple of interesting mods, but it's in incredible condition.
Yeah.
And it was 600 quid.
Okay. Yeah.
For a 100-watt high watt.
Yeah. Nice.
So I'm thinking I've done okay there.
Yeah.
And again, people have been asking for a high watt capture, a high watt pack from us. So that's.
And when you finish with it, David Gilmour will probably have it off you.
Oh, the Gilmour signatures are still $2.5-3 grand.
Yeah.
Sadly. What's interesting though is if I go to the watch list, and there's a few things on there that were silly. The fact that I thought that sold. No, it clearly didn't. So the 2-Rock that I was looking at didn't sell.
All right.
The 2-Rock Classic Reverb went for 1,800 quid for a 2-Rock. That's ridiculously low. The other two things we were looking at, particularly interesting, was the Mark II and the Mark III Boogie.
Yeah.
880 quid for a Mark II.
Right.
That's really, really, really cheap.
Yeah.
And the Mark III was 720. These are all plus 26% or 24.5%, I think. But what's really interesting, the beautiful Gary Moore SG Junior.
It's weird, isn't it, when they talk about these guitars that Gary Moore's. I've never seen any pictures or footage of Gary Moore playing a guitar like that. He's always oh right, okay. Well, I've seen one now. That was probably the only gig he used it for.
It didn't meet reserve.
Right. What was the reserve on it?
20
grand.
Between that would have been 20. That would have been a 20 grand reserve probably.
God.
The Johnny. This was one I was quite interested in. Johnny Marr's Mesa Boogie rig.
Yeah.
Didn't reach reserve.
Poor old Johnny.
I suspect he's not short of a bubble too.
Right.
The Paul Reed Smith private stock didn't meet reserve. I mean, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice.
That is utterly beautiful.
But having said that, what was the reserve on it?
No way to find out.
Oh, really? Okay. You just got to bid, and then they turn around and tell you whether you got it or not.
Yeah.
Right.
Bernie Marsden's 335. Yes. Did sell for 4 grand. I mean, that's a beautiful guitar for 4,000 quid.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah. Yeah. But again, I've never seen him play one.
No. But I mean, these people have these guitars, don't they?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
The Nick Huber didn't sell.
Yeah.
Which is, I wouldn't say it was entirely unlikely.
6 grand.
Yeah, I mean, that's similar to the one that Paul had. The Nick Huber Les Paul-esque thing. Yeah. There's another 2 days of auctions. maybe only one day. I'm not entirely sure because all the stuff I've wanted, I've now bought, or rather, I have no more cash. Therefore,
until you sell some stuff,
I can't look at anything tomorrow because I'll be like, oh,
yeah.
But yeah, so I think a good day. I think that Soldano will be a keeper.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of the Trace Elliott stack will be a keeper just because I need
studio.
Yeah. And I think maybe depending on how much I like the high watt, not sure yet because it's a sound I haven't got. It's a noise I don't have. But I am picking another amp up at the end of the month, which will be well and truly Tonexed, and that's definitely a keeper. But more on that to follow, as they say. Should we do the news while we're here?
Yeah.
So very sad to hear.
Yeah, Sir Brian May.
Brian May's had a stroke. You know, it's not. We ain't getting any younger. No. I think is the follow up post to that. But apparently he's okay.
Yeah. I saw a video. He put a video out today, so most of the news channels have picked up on it today. But it happened a few days ago, or a week or so ago. So he's recovered quite quickly from it.
And it's suffered a stroke and temporarily lost use of his arm, not has temporarily lost use of. It's definitely past tense. So
yeah, he's all good. He showed in the video that he was, able to move his arm again and everything.
Yeah. I mean,
that's
clearly there's the legendary Barnet of this. Not much news this week, other than the fact that Billy Gibbons has had some Seymour Duncan pickups made for him.
Wonderful.
And again, I'm sure they sound great and they look really cool. But as the argument could go, do pickups make that much difference?
Yeah, exactly.
Controversial.
Yeah.
And one that we are hoping to get our evil mitts on very shortly, the new DNAFX Gitcore compact multi-effects pedal from Harley Bentone. So this makes it a Harley Benton moment of the week. Yes.
I really like the look of this. Mainly because of its, how like small pedals and small things. I imagine this thing's pretty tiny. It's probably HX Stomp sort of size. It's £75 in the UK, so it's an absolute Billy bargain. And even if the amp modelling inside it was not much cop, even as an amp to use at the end of your chain as an IR loader and a delay and chorus and reverb and all that, I bet it's absolutely fine. So even if you had a preamp pedal that you really like the sound
maybe a
of.
Tonex.
Yeah, a Tonex or one of the Victory ones or, whatever it might be, you could use this behind it to have your IR loaded in there and use it for delays and volume boosts that we were talking about a minute ago.
Yeah.
Volume boosts after your crunch sounds. For £75, that's an absolute steal, I think.
There are a lot of pedals around that are a lot more expensive than that.
Yeah.
That will probably do not as much as that.
So even if you paired it with something like this, if you paired it with something like the Boss IR2 to do your amp and your cab sounds and use that to do your delays and reverbs and stuff, you got yourself a good rig there for less than £250.
Yeah, result. Right. Let's dive on through because we can, because I've still got work to do, and Lee has very graciously stepped in to fill the breach, the void, the void that is where Paul Drew's wisdom tooth used to be.
Yeah, I'm sat right in the cavity.
The cavity. Boom. Here we go.
Keith Milner, the isolated guitar intro for Sweet Child of Mine sounds a lot less polished than the track. Yeah, okay.
It was probably doubled and tripled and all that sort of stuff to make it sound fat because Slash's guitar tone is not big. It's just
I liked his guitar tone.
It's loud,
He played at that Freddie gig, the Freddie tribute gig that happened about a month or two after he died. He played at that, didn't he? It just sounded awful.
I was there. I was at Wembley.
Oh, right. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Well, he played, I think he played, was Joe Elliott doing Tie Your Mother Down or something?
No, Joe Elliott did Tiny Modo. Gary Sharon did Now I'm Here, and it was painful. but Nuno made up for it, so it was okay.
Exactly. But I think Slash was, I can remember Joe Elliott introducing Slash as he came on stage to do the solo in Tie Your Mother Down. And it was, you could hardly hear it. It was just so thin and weedy and horrible and just not good.
There was an Appetite for Destruction signature amp in the auctions that went for like $3,000. I was like, that's not a sonic decision buying that amp, in my opinion.
No, probably not. Anthony Maplethorpe. Are we getting an H90 soon? Though it's to be a dedicated unit for an analog synth that doesn't have built-in effects.
It'll be great for that. You'll love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Keith, Willie, I agree. Mick. I'm sure John Cordy would disagree with him.
I think John Cordy would disagree with anybody.
I quite like John Cordy. I think he's a great guitar player, and I think he's really kind of, he comes over as really kind of down to earth, and he's got a dry sense of humor as well, which I like.
It's not my favorite of the current YouTube clan.
No, if you prefer Rob Chapman, don't you? Moving on. Let's move on. Pet Moxie. Cliff Richard spoke disparagingly about Beatles guitar parts. He didn't write anything remotely befitting their caliber, so I guess he had to pick up on something to make himself feel better. Yeah, probably. David. Thanks, gents.
Oh my God, it's me now. Jeez.
Paul is putting a thorn bucket. Keith, I used to do sound for local bands. I also spent most of the set wandering around with a tablet with the X Air.
Yeah.
Shahar, will you guys be reviewing the new Steve Morse Angle? Yeah, I saw that. I haven't watched a video on it yet, so I don't know what the the deal is with that. But yeah, I did see it. Wondered whether it was just another signature, whether Steve Morse rang up Angle and said, just make this amp a little bit brighter and then you can put my name on it or something,
I like Engel stuff. I have to admit, it's not Paul's bag of chips, but again, Paul would make it sound amazing because he's an amazing guitar player. But a buddy of mine used to play through an Engel and it always sounded amazing, even in a function band, a 100 watt head with a 4x12 in a function band. And it always sounded great and entirely appropriate. It was never kind of, oh my God, the guy's got the big German shred monster thing.
Why has Kirk Hammett turned up to play Lionel Richie songs?
Hello. Yeah, we should reach out to Engel.
Yeah. Nectaris. I'm not a tube amp snob, but there are some tones that are not easy to imitate digitally. Think of Julian Large. Clean guitar tone, double bass and drums. A modeler doesn't sound fat enough alone. Yeah, we'll have to agree to disagree on that, I think.
Julian Large, is he out of the Ecuadorian embassy yet?
That's Julian Lasage. Lasagna. Julian Lasagna. No, I'm not aware of the player that you've just quoted there. But, to say that you can't get... No.
It comes down to volume. If you can't get the tone above the sound of... So, okay. Physics 101 on sound, just for a minute. A clean tone is quite close to a sine wave, which is the most basic form of audio noise.
Yeah.
A distorted sound is many, many harmonics of that sine wave, added with some clipping, added with some stuff to fatten it up. So a distorted sound of the same amplitude will be louder just because it has more harmonic content. It will be perceived louder because it has more harmonic content. to get a cleaner tone to soar above a kick drum, for example, you say double bass and drums. I read it as double bass drums.
Double bass drum. Yeah.
I've heard, I've heard 50-watt polytones get above double bass and drums, no problem at all. I've heard modelers through PAs sound equally clean and equally beautiful.
Yeah,
cut above PAs, cut above other instruments. It's down to the PA.
Yeah, absolutely, but also the player as well. I mean, not that I wish to, insult anybody, but the amount of, valve amp analog aficionado guitar players that just say, "Oh, I tried to use a modeler once, and I fiddled about with it for 5 minutes and I hated it." Well, sorry, but you're going to need to invest a bit more time than 5 minutes in a modeler to get it to get your sound out of it, And I do find that with a lot of old school guitar players, and that's cool. If you're happy with your amp and you're happy with your cabinets and stuff, that's totally fine. But modelers do take a little bit of a time investment and a knowledge investment as to how they work and how they set up, and you need to know a bit more about EQ and all that kind of stuff to get it to work well. But if you're not willing to put the time in, that's totally fine. Go back to your amp. That's totally legitimate.
Now, from a function band quick setup point of view, there is definitely something very handy about the guitar player having an amp on stage, because if it ain't quite right, the guitarist can go nudge. Whereas you're not reliant on the guy at the front who's desperately trying to make the singer sound good, because let's face it, they need the most work. Make it work, and then the guitarist is actually playing. What? Oh, I'll turn it up a bit then. Having a guitar amp on stage can save the day if you haven't had time for a sound check, or you haven't had time for a decent sound check.
But know your gear. There's no substitute for knowing your gear. You've got to know your gear.
Exactly. Phil McKnight said it right.
Keith, and I high and low pass the guitars. Yeah.
Definitely.
Nicholas, hi guys. Cheers from Germany. What do you think about the Simplifier Mark II analog amp sim? Yes, I've tried this. I've tried the Mark I and the Mark II. Couple of things. I like the idea. I like the concept of it. It's really nice, and the fact that it's all analog. Couple of things I didn't like about it. I thought the analog speaker sim inside of it was really fluffy. When you started to run gain, it sounded all right clean and sort of edge, it was okay. When you started to run some gain through it, it just got really fluffy and reminded me of the sort of cab sims we were using 10, 12, 15 years ago. Also, you can't really use it. It's great as a studio tool, but you can't use it live because there's no way of doing presets. There's no way of doing channel. I know there is a fancier model which is shipped with a foot switch, but that foot switch is an external piece of gear that you plug into it. Not an ideal kind of setup really for the road, I don't think. And you can only swap between two sounds, which is again not ideal really for a modern guitar player playing functions or whatever. You're going to need up to sort of half a dozen sounds at your disposal at least, I would say. So so great, great idea, great concept. I'd like to see them develop it a bit further. I know that they take great pride in the fact that it's all analog, so they're not going to introduce IRs into it. I wouldn't have thought. But yeah, go and try one out. Yeah. David Brose, thank you guys. Hope my message was deleted. My friend laying here going into surgery in 30 minutes isn't digging it for some reason. Oh, right, okay. Oh, there's a picture of you there, James. Yeah.
There is. I'm not sure about that, but hey.
Jeff Cook, Dan, that pedal show is a Brisbane boy, is he? Right, okay.
Yes. Cool. I thought he was fish and chips, not fashion chaps, but hey.
Willie, man and dick, if you will. Okay. Jay Boyd, I'll be the first in line for Times bass amp.
James bass amp catches.
Oh, James. Right.
We do already have a bass amp pack which has got the Dark Glass Alpha Omega patches and the Fender Bassman patches in that I had.
Right, okay.
So that's a really, really good bass pack, a good starter pack. But the Trace Elliot, I'm going to go a bit more to town with a few more microphones and pick up the low end and get a really big fat raw bass sound. And maybe put some noisy pedals in it and make it fun as well.
Dirty it up.
Yeah.
Dave or Pavo, please, folks, hit the like button for the rats. Yes, hit the like.
Please
as Paul would say, hit the like button, but only if you're actually liking it.
No, I'm prepared to go with just the like button because we need it. Because at the moment we're getting nailed by YouTube and the algorithm. And
as Arnold Schwarzenegger would say, do it
now. Do it. Get to the job button.
Shagger 007. Right. Okay. Nice name there.
Oh, yeah.
How do you record bass with an amp, DI, or both? I just plug. This might be sacrilege. I just plug a bass guitar straight into my interface, and then I use probably definitely a compressor in the DAW. Maybe because I use Pro Tools, I get the SansAmp plugin, so maybe I'd use the SansAmp on it just to give it a bit of life. That's how I do it.
As you would expect, being the traditionalist that I is, I take a DI from both the amp and from the guitar directly because it gives me more. If I do have to reamp and go to a completely different direction, I can. And obviously, when a client is paying, you want to give them the maximum number of options. But I normally put 2 mics up, one in the topper end of registry type stuff on maybe a 2x10 cab with a tweeter, and one on the 15. So you can blend your amp tone as much as you like. Yesterday with Ben, he had a 12-inch speaker, which generally I don't like 12s on bass, but it sounded great. I think it's because it sounded it sounded quite middly because we were playing a fretless bass, and you kind of want that wah sort of sound. And it worked really well.
12s are okay at lower volume. You need 1x15s usually live to keep up with the drummer, but when you start really driving the bass amp. But in a studio scenario, 12s are good.
So it sounded great. So we had 2 mics, DI from the bass and DI from the amp.
What sort of mic would you use?
So I was using 2 different condenser mics, one vintagey sounding one and one modern-y sounding one. Right. And if I say what they were, I'll be giving the game away. But
but that's when you'd use when you were talking earlier about you'd use a Neve preamp. That's the time when I guess you'd use one, isn't it?
Definitely. The Neve 1073 OPX came out for that, and it just you plug it in directly into the desk and you go, oh, that sounds nice. You plug it in through the Neve and you go, oh, okay, yeah, I get it now. I get what that thing does. But generally I like to blend flavors, and I'll think, right, the chorus of this song needs some more, so maybe I'll bring the vintage mic up a bit to give it more, and then for the verse pull the vintage mic, maybe go back to the DI. And then the compressor, normally I've got 3 or 4 channels feeding into a master bus for that particular instrument, and the compressor is on the master bus, and that's just keeping everything even. And so
nice.
I like toys. I like to play around with it. Don't get me wrong. 9 times out of 10, I'll probably go, if it's a track that I'm doing where I'm not too fussed, it'll be the DI. But sometimes it's fun.
Keith, did ABBA guitar sell?
It did. Believe it or not, the Bjorn Alvarez autographed Star guitar sold for £2,800.
People would buy anything, won't they?
People will buy any old shite. Yes, it did sell, believe it or not. They're chatting amongst themselves. Hang on.
Shaggy 007. Is Brisbane in Canada or Tasmania? Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the two.
Yeah. Keith, I suspect miking cabs is tricky. Bass cabs is tricky. No trickier than a guitar cab, I wouldn't have said.
I always start in the same place, and this is not giving the game away. And Paul would say the same thing. Point your mic at the point where the cone meets the dust cap. And if you want to go brighter, go towards the dust cap more. If you want to go darker, go towards the cone more.
If you want a fatter sound, pull it out a bit.
Depends. If you want it more focused, bit closer. I tend to, for guitars, I'll be right on the grill. I'll be like half an inch off the grill. But for bass, sometimes you want a bit more wallow, a bit more wah back a bit. Yeah. If you want a bit more punch, in a bit. But a couple of inches off the grill is normally a good place to be for me.
Jeff Rock, he needs to stop stressing about bloody badges. Who? Brian May? Yeah,
probably.
He's going to get his hair done. Nectaris, Lee, hand on heart, is there any reasons beside convenience and cost that you use modelers for? Yes, that I will be truthful and say it was convenience that first turned me on to modelers. When I play locally, I usually play in small pub venues and clubs where they appreciate the fact that you're not blaring out a loud guitar amp and I'm playing silently through the PA. So there's that. And when I play internationally with some of the other bands that I'm in, it's good to just take your own gear and not have to rely on some god-awful hired backline when you get there. And you know that you're taking your gear, which is a small modeler, which either fits in your rucksack in the overhead compartment or fits in your guitar case with your guitar that goes in the hold. And you know that your sound will be your sound when you get to the other side. So, yeah, absolutely. But I don't feel that I compromise on tone. I don't feel that way at all because I've learned how to use them over the years. I've been using modelers consistently for probably 8 or 9 years now since I last had a valve amp. And I when I buy a product, I really like to get into it and know how to work, how to use it. I probably read the manual even before I've bought it because you can get manuals online these days. Yeah. So I read the manual even before I've bought it to see what kind of features it has and what it does and how if there's anything special in there that it does that my current one doesn't do, and all this sort of business. As we said earlier, knowing your gear is so vital, so vital.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love having a Bogner, a Vox, Synergy, the Dragon thing, the Chandler. I love having that stuff. And when it comes out, so tomorrow, Greg's bringing over a JCM 900 and a Fender Deluxe Reverb, and that's his wet dry rig, and it sounds epic. In the studio, you can do that because you've got time.
Yeah.
When you do a big festival date, you've probably also got time because your gear will go on a riser and be pushed out or whatever. If you're doing the dog and duck in Suffolk, they don't want 4 12-inch speakers arriving. They want a modeler because the front row, I mean, let's face it, 90% of the time, 99% of the time, the punters couldn't care less.
Exactly that. Yeah.
My only thing I've got upset with recently is where venues insist that you use their PA, and their PA is a sub and a stick thing.
Yeah.
Because there's no mid-range. There is no mid-range in those systems.
Oh, okay. Right.
They're all the PA that Paul and I tried out in Germany was very much the exception of those things because there was mid-range, and it's EV because EV is good quality stuff. But the number of gigs I've done recently where they've gone, we've got a PA, it's 1,000 watts, and you go, that'll be all right, and it's sub with a stick thing on top that just sounds great for a DJ, but not great for a band. And everyone goes, we can't hear you. And I go, we can't hear us. I played one of those venues at a marquee, and they said no backline. Everything going through these 2 They weren't the Bose, like the LD ones or something god awful. They were terrible.
We've just bought them in the cover band that I play in, actually. But we got the JBL PRX ones.
Yep.
And the singer's bought them, and he's bought 2 of them. Because originally he was when we were in the shop trying them out, he wasn't, he thought, oh, do I? The guy in the shop was sort of saying, oh yeah, of course you only need 1 of these. But he said, no, I think I'll buy 2, 1 aside. So they're 2,000 watts apparently. And it took us a while to get our sound through them, but now we've got our sound through them. They sound monstrous. They sound really good.
I did a gig at the weekend, so I don't gig that much anymore. But I had a scratch gig, and they said, "Can you do PA and lights and stuff?" I said, "Of course I can." And I took the QSCs, so it's a dual 12-inch sub aside and a 10 and a horn. So 4K in a big ass marquee that I was going, oh shit, I'm going to struggle in here. This is not going to sound nice. And you know what? It kicked ass.
Oh, good.
It sounded awesome. And it sounded awesome because we had a lot of air moving in the low end, and we had a 10-inch driver in the mid and some tweeters. There's a lot of air moving there. Those little 3-inch tweeters or 3-inch mids don't generally give a lot of mids.
Yeah, what we have found since we got this new PA system is that it doesn't perform well at outdoor gigs or marquee gigs or anything like that. It's fine for indoor gigs. You're playing in a pub or a club, it sounds great because you've got the walls on the ceiling to help keep the sound in. But when you're playing just outdoors or in a marquee, it's
gone. Yeah,
the sound.
With a marquee, you might as well be playing outside.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. But that gig I went to last Wednesday at in Swindon, the PA in that place was absolutely shocking. It was really, it was pretty old. It looked as though it had been driven within an inch of its life as well. And the sound man who was there was the band's sound man. He kept complaining that half the faders on the desk didn't work.
That's true. The daft thing is these days you can pick up a digital desk like an X32 for not much money. There is no excuse anymore for shit gear. Gear is as cheap as it's ever been, and it's only getting cheaper.
Yeah. Keith, talking of Billy Bargains, Velaton have launched a dual looper for 120 quid. Yeah, I'm not really in the looper world, I'm afraid, so I don't really know whether that's good or bad. There was a little bit of hype surrounding that Velaton launch, and I thought, oh, crikey, yeah, they got exactly like what Harley Benton have just released, a little core, and I thought, because they take pictures of these things and then they darken the picture down so you can just see a shadow of it. And I thought, oh, wow, that looks really cool. It looks like a small HX Stomp or something, And then they revealed it. It's a looper. Just what the world needs, another looper.
Lovely. There's a bit of chat going on between you all. I think Shagger was having a laugh.
Okay. Gary Whisker, have you seen Jack White's company pedal the Le Group? Yes, I did see something had been released. I'm not a Jack White fan, I'm afraid, so it passed me by, really. Sad to say. Is it a reverb?
Don't know.
I think, is it a reverb with a spring in it? I think it might be.
I can't take him seriously. The white stripe.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. I'm similar kind of, I'm probably an old dad, but there we are. Keith Milner, Ethan Weiner, who is a renowned acoustics engineer, did a classical performance on a telly into Digitech RP355 multi-effects into a Mackie Thump 12 TH12A with an orchestra, and it sounded great. There you go. He probably knows how to use the Digitech.
I've got interesting. We were talking about barefaced audio a little while ago, and after that chat on the live stream, Greg actually sent me a message, said, copy and paste this in, here's the guy's email address. I did, and they've come back to us, and it looks like we're going to be doing some stuff with them, but they've got a new FRFR cab coming out, or I think it is out, that is really good, and it's based on their existing guitar cabs. And we're going to do a comparison type thing and do some work, which sounds like quite good fun.
Cool.
But yeah, so watch this space for some new FRFR stuff and guitar cabby type stuff from Bareface coming very soon.
Nice. Okay, search for Tchaikovsky Rococo variations.
Rococo variations, yeah. Yeah, careful with that one.
Yeah, exactly. To my inexperienced ears, well, this is Pet, sorry. To my inexperienced ears, my Twin X sounds great. Should I be concerned at all about what's cooking in the kitchen anytime soon? Fear of being left behind and all that. No, I saw a video recently where somebody said, don't hold off and wait for what might be coming around the corner. If you're, music is all about creating now, really. And you should just, create, what's it someone else said? The best bit of gear is the gear that you already own. So
and the gear you know how to use, as we've said many times. I've heard great albums recorded on gear that you go, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Willie, anyone's a fan of Underdrive?
Underdrive.
Is that so earlier when we were talking about plugging your guitar in, that's making sure that you don't turn up at all maybe on the interface? That's Underdrive, is it?
I've certainly had, where you're driving a Marshall full tilt, but you wind the guitar volume back and you get that really nice kind of really intense, really forward clean sound.
Yeah. Like
super overdriven, but not clean sound. I love that.
As long as you haven't got a noise gate.
Yeah. Yeah. But Gary Moore did that so well with the Les Paul. Wind the volume right back on the guitar and get that kind of Peter Green-esque whap, 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 whap sort of sound.
Yeah. Anthony, I haven't had a valve amp since 2007. That was when I first bought my first Axe FX Standard. My old valve amp stuck around unplayed for 2 years, was sold, and I've never looked back. Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. Yeah, the same with me, really. I've never had, and I've had every iteration of Axe FX since. Yeah, I mean, I've never myself got. I mean, I had a lovely valve amp. The last valve amp I had was the Victory V30. Absolutely beautiful amp that was, and I loved it. I loved the sound. I loved the clean channel. I loved the drive channel. But it was just, I was starting to do more gigs overseas. And I just needed something small. I needed something convenient, So
it's funny because I'm seriously in the market for an Axe FX, but it's the only time I've held off on buying a piece of gear because Axe FX 4 must be coming soon.
So are you hoping that you'll get an Axe FX 3 and pick it up cheap as chips? Is that what you're hoping?
No, I'll get an Axe FX 4 because I'm that person.
Wow, okay.
I'm that idiot.
Sorry, kids, it's Isle of Wight again next year. But Bahamas will have to wait.
It's already booked. It's already booked. And we're going back to Menorca to the same place again. So, hey, wait. As I don't know if you have kids, but if you do and you find somewhere you like, go with what you know. Certainly for
he's 23 now. He doesn't go on holiday with us anymore.
Oh, fair enough.
But yeah, when he was young, yeah. Keith White, I'm late. Excited to try the UA Anti 1992 pedal. Yeah, I saw that. Again, as one of the reviewers said, does the world really need another 5150 pedal copy? There's loads of them out there that exist already. Yeah. So I'm being all downer on it now, aren't I?
My only problem is that everyone else thought the Lion was amazing, and Paul and I and you were not big fans. I actually liked the Lion more when I turned off all the cab emulation and just used it as a distortion pedal.
Okay, yeah, right.
When I did the wet, dry, wet and the wet, dry rigs, that was where the tone came from. And I went, I like this.
Yeah.
I'd be really worried with the Anti that I'd be buying all the other stuff and just turning it off.
Yeah.
But hey, if UA want to send us one, which they probably won't because we didn't say nice things about the Lion.
You didn't like the Lion. Yeah. Michael Dennis, James, can you Oh, getting tired now. James, can you tell if you can make a Tonex capture the Synergy Z Rec module?
It's Paul's module. He now has he will have a Synergy amp. I think it's the Synergy Syn 50 that's coming back from the US of A. I don't think we're allowed to, because obviously we have a relationship with Synergy, and that would be a bit like pissing on your own daffodil.
Yeah.
So,
didn't Paul actually get a Z-Rec amp though? At some point, I thought he did.
We've got a Z-Rec. We've got a Z-Rec amp capture pack. We haven't got the module. We've got the actual capture.
Yeah, so he must have had an amp at some point then.
Yeah, yes,
so it's there already.
Yeah. So you get the amp capture pack rather than the Synergy capture pack. The Synergy capture is great. The Synergy module is great, but it's based on the amp. So why speak to the organ grinder when you can listen to the organ?
Yeah.
That's the one. Go with that.
Definitely. Willie, talking of weird Beatle guitar tones, Happiness is a Warm Gun has a particularly mid-focus solo. Pre-Tube Screamer, do you think they just crank the mids on the desk?
It was done with 2 API preamps running into each other, a bit like the Revolution guitar solo. It's done that way. It's 2, not API, RCA preamps into each other, so you get the gain from one cascading into the gain of another. So yeah, it's horrible, but it's great. Yeah.
So is that the same set? Because the intro to Revolution by the Beatles is that. It just sounds like a distortion pedal to me with no cab sim on it.
No, but it's two mic pre gains. It's awful,
right? Okay,
but it's great at the same time.
Same as the solo on Easy Like Sunday Morning.
Yes.
Jeff Cook, my Fender FR10 FRFR powered speaker seems very quiet for 1,000 watts. Barely getting over the drummer and the bassist with a Fender Rumble 25. Presumably I've set something incorrectly on it or the Tonex.
It'll be output of Tonex probably, or the input gain of the FRFR. I don't know that particular speaker. Most of them have an input gain or an input control of some kind. It will be that.
I've got the head rush, and I've got the 8-inch.
You know, it's an alto, not a head rush.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's got a head rush badge on it.
Therefore it must be 2,000 watt. You know, they're not actually 1,000 watt, don't you?
Well, I was just about to say. So I had, I bought an 8-inch PA speaker first of all and tried that, and that wasn't loud. This is back in the days when I first got into modelling, and I took before I went over to in-ears.
Yeah,
I used to take out an FRFR with me, and I had a little 1x8 monitor, and that wasn't loud enough. I can't remember what make it was now.
Not a JBL Eon or something like that.
No, it wasn't nothing as fancy as that.
Okay.
So I then went out and bought the head rush, but I only bought the 1x8 head rush because there's a 1x12 as well. But I bought the 1x8, and that is blisteringly loud. Yeah. Blisteringly.
But it ain't 2,000 watts.
No, it's not 2,000, but it is blisteringly loud.
A 2,000 watt rack power amp is a big thing. I mean, and that's presumably pre-Class D as well. So yeah, they're about 500 watts RMS.
Probably. But the one I've got can easily play over a drummer easily.
Yeah.
So maybe it's something in your settings. Yeah. Willie, exactly that, James. But to go from gain to clean instantly, I crank my AC15 and use a cheap Behringer EQ to send about minus 15 dB into the amp for a cracking clean tone. Well, there you go. Yeah. Right. Underdrive. Yeah. Keith, by the way, Harrison Mix Bus is on a killer deal at the moment for anyone looking for a decent DAW.
It is $29, I think it is at the minute.
I've never heard of it actually.
Harrison Mix. It's cool because it's got the same EQ characteristics and as the Harrison consoles. That's where it comes from. Who are now part of SSL, I believe. Audiotonics, who own SSL and various other people. But yeah, definitely. If you need a DAW to do very basic editing, but to do really good mixing stuff, Harrison Mix Bus is the way forward.
Fur Charles. Not sure if my chat went through, so apologies if this is repeated.
But
what's better between Fuchs? Red
Red
plate,
plate,
Fuchs, and
Fuchs.
amplified nation for the edge of breakup drive, a la Santana.
Oh my god, that is so. Paul and I did a video a little while ago where we went to visit one of you lot, a dear listener, and Clive had a Fuchs, a 2-rock, and a red plate.
Oh yeah, I remember those videos. Yeah.
The red plate that Clive had is about to become my red plate because I'm buying it from him. The Fuchs, neither Paul or I particularly liked. 2-rock, we both like. Amplified Nation, Paul has 2 of. They're all really, really, really good amps. I think the red plate, both Paul and I went, holy, you know what? That amp sounds amazing. A Santana breakup overdrive sound is a Mark II boogie with some god-awful fuzzy noise thing in the front end of it.
It's a really scratchy sort of sound.
It's not my favorite noise in the world. Any of those amps will do a far better overdrive sound than Santana gets, that's for sure. But if you're talking those sort of brands, you're talking multiples of 4 figures. So
lots of money. Yeah,
check some out.
I've tried Paul's Amplified Nation amps, and they're very good. Very good. Yeah.
I mean, some of the best amps I've ever heard, some of the best amps I've ever played. So's that red plate. That red plate's up there as well. I nearly bought, when we played Clive's originally, I nearly bought one from the States. The only thing that made it cost prohibitive was all the extra stuff that goes along with it, like shipping and taxes and stuff.
Yeah.
And as soon as Clive said, I'm selling it, I went, I'm having that. So, yes, that'll be coming very soon.
Pet, nice one, lads. Pilates on the lawn now before I climb the wooden hill to Bedfordshire to see the blanket show.
Yes, indeed.
Keith, if you stump up for a Mixed Bus 10 Pro, $130, you'll get a bunch of plugins plus both the standard 32C channel strip and the SSL 9000J EQ and Dolby Atmos capability.
Nice. Yeah, it's a really good deal at the minute. It's not a lot of dough and it's awesome. And I didn't mean to press that. He only says also, disclosure, I'm a very minor contributor to the Mixed Bus industry. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right, Keith. We don't mind. Lee, I have to say thank you so much for literally stepping in at the 11th hour, at the 12th hour even, and helping us out tonight. Paul is in some degree of discomfort from having a dentist.
Hopefully he'll be in the land of Nod by now.
Hopefully, well and truly. We will see you next week for more of the same. The whinging one will no doubt be back and complaining how we got everything wrong and didn't do it right, all that sort of stuff. But until then, everyone, take care. We'll see you again next week and have a great week and see you then. Night.
Cheers, everyone.